Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to Babeinlibrary. It's your girl Lisa, and today we're going to talk about my September wrap up. Now, I know I've been doing these in 2-month increments, so this really should have been September and October, but I just couldn't hold off talking to you all because September was an absolute banger. It was hit after hit after hit. So much so that my average rating was a 3.96. And that is good, specifically because I have 4 5-stars. You heard me. 1, 2, 3, 4 5-stars. So I've got to jump into it. I have 9 of the 13 books I own. So that is going a long way to reading down my shelves. I'm so happy that I was able to get to a number of these. 2 out of the 13, which is not included in the shelf, were e-arcs that I read on time, might I add. And then that means the other 2 I borrowed. Now, I did have 1 DNF, which I will be talking about as well. So in total, that's 13 books that I've read and then 1 DNF. Let's go ahead and start off with the first 3 books that I read, which was for my hockey romance vlog, which was known as Ice Me Out. I started off because I needed to read Naima Simone's latest release, which was a hockey romance, fake dating type situation where our main male character, Solomon, he is a hockey player. He is going through a bout of grief. Now, he has lost his spouse and he's writing in a journal, and the arena gets flooded out. And so Adina, who is our female main character, she is actually a firefighter. And she comes from a line of firefighters. So her brothers, her father, her grandfather, her godfather, everybody in the firehouse is related to her. And so she is always trying to hold her own, but she is also experiencing things that her parents and her family cannot relate to, being the fact that she is the only female firefighter. She is going through a bout of grief after losing her significant other in a fire. And so she resonates. She picks up Solomon's journal and she starts to read it, and immediately she knows that it's Solomon's. And so she's like, I need to protect this and bring it back to him. And he is the first person that is able to understand and put things into words that I cannot express. And so I want to make sure that I hand this back to him. Now, when we first interact with Solomon and Adina and they first meet each other, she is going to return that journal and it doesn't necessarily go well. Solomon feels like she has really ripped him a shred by exposing him and bearing his truth that was not supposed to be seen by anyone. And Adina is like, I resonate with you, but you're being an asshole. And so that is pretty much what I'm going to give you. Now, as far as how I feel about the book, I rated a 3.25. I have loved Naima Simone's sports romance in the past. However, this one, Solomon was a D-bag the entire time. Like, he did not get any better. And I understood that he was dealing with his own grief. He was dealing with raising his son. He was left to be a single father. He had to combat his in-laws and making sure that they didn't overstep their boundaries. But he continued to push Adina away. He was not kind, was not nice to her. He set up walls, not knowing that, not realizing that she is grieving too, and that she is trying to bare her soul to you, and that she is going out of her way, and you completely put her out on the cold. And I didn't necessarily like that. Like, I understand Grump Sunshine, but I want him to be a grump to everybody but me. And if you continue to treat her like this, on top of all the other BS that she's having to deal with, she don't have to deal with you. And I felt like he used her. He used her and he did not grovel, and he really needed to. So that's how I feel about that book. Once I finished Played, I decided to pick up Andy Jackson's Hidden Scars, which was my first 5-star of the month. This one, it touched me. This one is hurt, comfort, hockey romance, roommates to lovers. It is everything that I could have needed right at the moment. Like I said, this one is hurt, comfort, and it is the supreme top book that I have ever read with that particular trope, because Preston, who is one of our main male characters, he is a super athlete. He is highly recognized. He is supposed to be going pro. He is coming from a lucrative family, and he goes to this small town college, I believe that's in Ohio. And everyone is looking like, why is he coming here? Like, we are not really the best hockey team. He could go anywhere he wants, but why is he coming here? And on top of that, how are we supposed to deal with him because he's an asshole on the hockey rink? But Jeremy doesn't let that stop him. Jeremy is like, okay, you're my roommates. I know what I believe you to be, but I'm going to try to befriend you because we have to work as a team and be a cohesive unit. And so Jeremy is fighting to really like the guy because Preston does not make it easy. And the reason for that is Preston cannot get close to anyone. He has his father, who his father is a terrible scum of a human being. His father has coerced him to come to this town to be closer to him. And so his father is like, hey, you're going to this school. You're going to be perfect in every sense of the word. There is no room for mess ups. And if you do, I am going to make sure you pay. And so Preston is not used to being close to anyone. He has to keep his guards up because he doesn't want his father to have more ammunition against him. He doesn't want to find somebody, become close with them, and then they have to feel his father's wrath. And so it isn't until he meets Jeremy that Jeremy is the first person that is able to get under his skin and worm his way in. And once he finds Jeremy, Jeremy becomes his person, and their worlds are intermingled and they become codependent on one another. And I'm not saying that that is right, because I will say that their relationship from the outside looking in is kind of toxic. However, if you know somebody is on the brink of them being able to walk away and say, I've got nothing to live for, just let them have that person. And that person is Jeremy. And from there, he gets wrapped up in a found family. Jeremy brings him around his own family and his friends, and they surround him with comfort. And that is what I love about this book. Like I said, be warned that this one has some severe triggers, childhood abuse. It also has PTSD. So this has a lot of triggers. But let me tell you, when I say this relationship, it touched me. I loved it. Now, the third and final book that I read for that vlog was Goal by Alexandria House. This is the Dark and Disturbed edition. Absolutely gorgeous. This, again, is also hockey romance. It is older woman, younger man, forced proximity, nanny, and guardian, virgin FMC, and plus size FMC. So this one I'm a little bit conflicted on. I originally rated it a 4, but it may be a 3.75 simply because there were some things thrown on to the end that I felt like was unnecessary. Like, I love Alexandria House, but she didn't have to do what she did. So content warning, I do want to make mention of this one has on-page miscarriage, so be mindful of that. Protect your peace, because that one was actually very hard to read. In addition to a plot twist that had family drama that I'm like, that came out of nowhere. We should unpack this a little bit. Like, I got to the point when I was reading this, I was like, excuse me, Alexandria, are you just like trying to rush us? Because we can add on another 100 pages. We don't need you to rush through this. But I did enjoy the relationship between Malik and Mari. Malik is a hockey player for an all-black hockey team, which kudos to A House, because that is what we need to see. Alexandria said, hey, y'all don't want to put black people on a hockey team. That's fine. I'm going to make my own hockey team and make them all black. And I loved it. And I will be continuing on with the series because some of the other hockey players are very interesting. But Malik in particular was our main male character in Goal. I really loved that he was a stand-up guy. Now, the way that this started off is he retained a guardianship for his 2 siblings, which he has never met. He has a younger brother named Junior and a younger sister named Jules, and he has never met them before. He just is now retaining guardianship, and he doesn't know what to do. So he's like, I need to hire a nanny because my current girlfriend says she don't want nothing to do with my siblings. She actually don't really want them in the house. And that was problematic for me. Like, if I could see her out in the street, I would. She also reminds me a lot of his stepmother. And when you read the prologue for this, you'll know what I mean. But his girlfriend is like, hey, I'm not dealing with your siblings. I never signed up for this. But what I am going to do is hire you a nanny. But that nanny is not going to be cute. She's going to be plus size. She is not going to be someone that would steal you from right under my nose. Joke's on her. Malik was attracted to her and it happened anyway. So this does not have cheating. Even though he was in a relationship at the start of the book, he is not in a relationship when he decides to go with Mari. And I loved that Malik really did see her. He really wanted to give her agency, because he's like, hey, you are struggling and you are doing everything you can to protect me and my family. Let me make sure I do the same for you. If you need someplace to stay, you can stay with me, or we can get you somewhere else to stay. If you need time off, make sure that you take it. Whatever you need, I got you, because you seem to have me. And I loved that their relationship was effortless in that manner. And so, like I said, Gold was a little bit conflicting for me. I will be continuing on with the series. It was just the two things that were thrown on at the end that I was like, really? Was that necessary? Now, after that, I was like, I'm in the mood for something dark. And one of my friends recommended what has got to be one of my favorite reads of the month. So much so that I read not only the first one, but I read the second in the series. And the third in the series comes out not tomorrow. It comes out the day after tomorrow, which means that I have to, get my hands on it. And that's going to be Jatoria C's The Devil Wears Baccarat series. So that's The Devil Wears Baccarat and The Devil Wears Baccarat 2. Obviously, the third one is going to be The Devil Wears Baccarat 3. This is a Romanian mafia dark romance. When I say dark, like, it's unhinged. And I love that for myself. The first one that I'm going to talk about is The Devil Wears Baccarat, which is Alexander and Kenya's book. Now, Alexander is known as the monster, and he is every bit of that. And so he is pretty much the security or enforcer for their mafia. He is the second brother in the line of 3, and he is a little bit unhinged. And so he goes with his brother one night and he's like, hey, I just took out our security tech person because they were lying to us. So because we no longer have one of them, we need to get one ASAP. And I think I've got just a person to do it. And that person happens to be Kenya's little brother. So they break into Kenya's house and they're like, hey, we're going to go ahead and steal him. But I think there may be a concern if we leave her here. So let's go ahead and work her up and say, hey, you need to pack a bag. Your brother is going to come with us, and so are you. And Kenya, what I love about her is she's like, I'm not taking... something is wrong and something is going on. They tap her on her shoulder and she reaches for her gun under the pillow and she aims it right at Alexander's eye. She said, hey, you look okay, but you look unhinged. And I'm going to make sure that if I shoot a bullet, it's going straight through you. And Alexander's like, ooh, that's my woman. I love her, and she's coming with me. And from there, baby, it gets dark and twisted. This is he falls first, touch her, and you're out of there. Cat and mouse, and a little bit of Beauty and the Beast. Again, he is very grumpy. He has like this West Wing that he wants her to stay away from, and she can't talk to anyone or he'll be growling. And he makes sure he knows, hey, you're with me. If somebody else ever even looks at you, baby, they're out of there. And so this one was one of the ones I was like, this is me in a book. However, Tori said, let me up the ante. If you thought that was the one for you, read the second one. This is really the truly darkest parts of my desire. If you want to know how unhinged I am, just read this one. This one is Constantine and Ari. Constantine is the older brother. He is now known as the Nasu. He is the head of the line. And from whatever happened in here, he now has to ascend. And because he has to ascend, he's like, I need a wife. They've given me 60 days. I've already blown through 30. And he sees Kenya's best friend, Ari. He's like, you're going to be my wife. And that's the end of that. Now, Ari thinks that he's playing. And the man's not playing. He said, your options are, you be my wife, or you're out of here. You're 6 feet under. And I'm thinking, just like Ari, ha ha ha, he's drunk, I'm drunk. No, the man said, you don't know it yet, but you're already my wife. On paper, legally, because I signed your name. I had your name. I actually had you sign your name and you didn't even know. This is marriage of convenience. Touch her and you out of there. Like, literally, if y'all like Hunting Adeline, where Zayd, or whatever his name, chops off of a hand for touching a woman. Tori said, I got that for you too. This is forced proximity, but the thing about that I love about this is Ari said, I'm a metro crazy. If you think that you finna sit here and you gonna be the only one messing things up in this, I'm gonna paint the house red. And I'm gonna make sure that I bash it and let you know two can play that game. Fantastic. 5 stars. Now, continuing on, I was like, okay, we're in marriage, type of convenience, arranged marriage, forced marriage, whatever the case may be. Let me go ahead and read Mirage and Masti. This is the final in the If the Aunties Were a Shakespeare series. And I thought that I was going to love this one. This one has to be probably my most disappointing read of the month. I thought that I was going to rate this 5 stars. I wound up rating it 3.75. That does not mean that it's bad. I just had higher expectation for this. This is a friends to lover, marriage of convenience, forced proximity, only one bed retelling. And I think some of the things that bothered me about this book, it went on too long, and I was just like, please get it together already. Like, y'all care for each other, and what's not clicking? Like, something is not clicking for y'all to realize we need to be together. And the fact that they just could not voice everything, like Deepak had loved Vera and never really acknowledged it himself, and then when he really finally did realize it, he still wouldn't tell her. Vera was very high and mighty. Like, I don't understand why she pulled away from her friends. Yes, your friends are married or they're engaged, they're in relationships, so ultimately they are going to grow, but that does not mean that you leave them in the dust and you separate themselves when they are trying. On top of the fact, you're getting upset at the wrong people for the wrong things. You're mad because you found out some information a day later. Like, all of this really did annoy me. And then you add in some of the additional subplots. The miscommunication between Vera and her sister, and how her parents are playing them against one another. Like, I just was very annoyed, and I was hoping for more, but I'm not going to say it's a bad book. This is probably my least favorite in the series, and that's just unfortunate because Marriage of Convenience and Friends to Lovers, usually my jam. However, what was my absolute jam, and I do believe the hype, it is worth every single star in the galaxy. And I do mean that because it is a story about an astronaut falling in love, which is going to be The Kiss Countdown by Etta Easton. This was 5 stars, perfection. The ultimate fake dating there is. Like, it don't get no better than this. If you have another fake dating recommendation that tops this, I'd like to see it. Point it out, because this one is supreme. Has forced proximity, only one bed. He falls first with a cinnamon roll hero, found family, hurt comfort. I absolutely love so many things about this. One, this has sickle cell representation. It also has a side character with vitiligo. So there is so much representation in this. You have our main male character, whose name is Vincent. Vincent is an astronaut, and he is not necessarily wanting to be in a relationship. He is wanting to fly to the moon. He's wanting his family to be proud and happy of him. However, his mother and his siblings are really on his bumper about settling down, changing careers, everything that he's pushing against. He is not looking for anything, but he stumbles into A-Marie. Now, A-Marie is at the coffee shop, and then she has this cute situation where she runs into her ex-boyfriend, and her ex-boyfriend is now in a relationship, and she is fumbling, and she's like, actually, I have a partner. And he was like, her ex-boyfriend's like, who? I never thought she was going to get married. I never thought she was going to be serious. And lo and behold, she ropes Vincent into being her fake boyfriend. And so for this, they have to play it out, because A-Marie is like, thank you, you did me a solid. And Vincent's like, hold up. my sister actually just heard me tell you that you was my girlfriend. And I've also been lying to my family. So now you have to go on this family trip with me and pretend to be my person. And let me tell you, the shenanigans escalate from here. Now, I will say there was one thing that I was like, Ada, we took it too far. This level of fake dating and foolishness is gone too far. But you found a way to still bring it back full circle and make it work. I loved that there is a flip at the end when it comes to groveling. Perfection. I could gush about this, and the fact that Vincent is a Marie's piece because she has a fear of heights. He flies to the moon, and vice versa. Vincent has a fear of being around too many people. A Marie is a event planner, so she loves being in spaces and loves being the center of attention and loves having big family events. And so these two really balance each other out, and you can see that throughout the book because every time one needs the other, they are there for them, and I just loved it. This was 5 freaking stars out of the galaxy. I read for my 12 for 12 recommendation, He Calls Himself Bas, which is by Tierra Cox. It is a dark romance love triangle that centers Cambion and Nephilim. And so I don't really want to get into it too much because I want to save it for my 12 for 12 recommendation. But if you are looking for something in the spooky season of October, you're looking for angels and demons, you are looking for a fantasy plot that is dark, that also, like I said, if you have love triangles or you are jam and you're like, will she, won't they? This is the one for you. It starts off with a female main character that is she's running from, and it is dark, let me tell you. She is running from her stepfather, who she believes killed her mother, also had abused her, who is also a cop. And so she's been running for him all of her childhood and her adult years. She works at a strip club and she purchases a new home. And in that home, it has a mirror. And that mirror just so happens to have a demon trapped in it. And she is the only one that is able to release him. And so he convinces her to release him. And she strikes a bargain or deal with him. And she's like, hey, if you take care of my stepfather, I'll be indebted to you. And from there, the story unfolds and we are on the wildest ride possible. I rated a 3.75. The ending of who she chose was not necessarily what I would have chosen for myself. I feel like we wrapped it up way too soon and there was much more story to tell, but I enjoyed the ride. And this book is what really got me on my Nephilim and Cambion dark romantasy binge. And so I have to thank Tierra Cox for that. After that, I was like, ooh, okay, love triangle, not necessarily my jam, but you know what is my jam? When the woman gets to get all the men. And so I went for a Why Choose Romance, being The Oath by T.M. Richardson. 5 fantastic stars. This one, let me first let you know, it has so much spice, being that it is in a pleasure club, but in the same token, it has so much depth to it. This is the romance of Tatum, who is a older heroine. So all of our characters are in their 40s, which y'all know is my jam. I am over the 30 hump. I am in my mid 30s, and so I want to see more seasoned characters. I want characters who have experienced life and are now looking to just be happy. They don't necessarily have to go to the clubs. They don't necessarily have to find the ultimate boyfriend. They're looking for their partner. And baby Tatum finds that in not 1, not 2, but 3 men. And the catch here is that these 3 men are her ex-husband, or her deceased husband rather, her deceased husband's best friend. You heard me correctly. If I could swap lives for any day with any fictional character, it's going to be Tatum. Tatum is living her ultimate best life. And so I will tell you, it starts off a little bit rough, but even the relationship that Tatum had with her deceased husband, Frankie, was beautiful. It was so full and rich. You get to meet them as Frankie is living out his last days, and he just wants Tatum to be happy. He knows that there are things, there's so much life more left in her, he's just not going to be experiencing it with her. So he tells her, hey, sweetheart, take a moment. We've got our caregiver here. Go out and enjoy yourself. Go to the club and enjoy your carnal desires, because I can no longer give that to you. And so she goes. She takes him up on that offer. She goes, but she's like, something's not right. I need to go back home. And as she gets back home, her husband does happen to pass, and she's spending her last moments with him. Now, he has left notice for her that he wants his 3 best friends to care for her in any means necessary, whether it's emotionally, whether it is physically, whether it is financially. He left them in charge. Now, these are his 3 best friends, so he knows them very, very well. You have, this is Cassidy. Now, Cassidy is my boo. That's my man. Like, Cassidy is number 1 in my book. He is the character that we actually know least about. Like, Tatum doesn't necessarily have a friendship with him other than the proximity that he's a bit in around her husband. So we know the least about him going in. Then you have the guy in the middle. This is Declan. Now, Declan is a character. When I tell you that he had me laughing so much that I understood his purpose in the book. And while he may be a wild card, he is definitely going to be a full house and a royal flush for Tatum. Then you have Miles. Miles is actually Frankie, the deceased husband's business partner and best friend. And Miles and Frankie and Declan all went to college together, where they happened to meet Tatum. Interestingly enough, they meet her all at the same time. It's just Frankie got to her first. And I love this. When I tell you, each one of these men had their own unique relationship with her. You get to see their individual dates, but you also get to see them as a collective. They are not here just to pleasure her, but they are there to make sure that she knows that she is loved, she is cared for. They are well equipped with sharing with each other. There is no animosity, no jealousness, and you just love to see it play out. Some of the scenes we get in here, listen to the audiobook. The audiobook took this to a new height. Like, I was sitting here like, okay, I need to pause this. I need a moment. Let me get some water. Let me take a breather. And then I'm going back in. You get some of the cutest, sweetest dates, but also some of the nastiest time. Like, it's Mr. Nasty time in here. Like, I love this book. TM knew what she was doing. She said, I got something for the women that are over 40 that think that their days are numbered. I'm going to tell you, the world is your oyster. Fantastic book. Once I finished that, I picked up That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. This is the 3rd in the Time I series. That's what I'm calling it. This is Kimberly's book that actually released last year, and I picked this up at Steaming Lit, and I've been pushing it off ever since then. I said, no more. Today is the day, because I needed something fantastical. I am in heavy romantic-y bag, and this is what this is giving. And unfortunately, I rated this a 3.5. I've loved this entire series. I think I waited a little bit too long to read this one, and also it just took me a minute to get back into the world. I love that we are dealing with characters that we already know and love. Dante is very grumpy. He is always looking for a way to get away from his friends, but he stumbles into Cherry. Now, this is very slaying dragons from a dragon. Like, this is going to save the damsel in distress, but lo and behold, Cherry is not a damsel. When I tell you, she actually saved this man more than once. And I'm like, sis, you're a whole small little bitty thing, and you're going to go ahead and slay dragons and save a dragon who happens to be your fated mate. And so this is a shifter romance, fated mate, captor captive, he falls first type of situation. And I love that we got to see Alexis again. We got to see Dante's best friend Felix. What I struggle with is that it held out a little bit too long on their romance. This was more centered on the adventure between the two, which was very entertaining. However, I did not feel the sparks and the connections between Cherry and Dante. They never really dived into their relationship once they finally said, okay, we're going to be together. I didn't really get romance vibe. I got the, yeah, I'ma save you, we're gonna slay the demons and some of the Kraken, and then yeah, we're just gonna be together. Like, it never gave what Fallon and Cinnamon gave. Like, they gave, we are soulmates, we are fated mates, we are bonded. Like, these were like, oh, we're two homies, we happen to like each other, but that's about it. And then I was a little upset towards the end. I was like, this has got to be a big reunion. Like, she is getting to be with her siblings again. She is going home to her farm. She's getting back to Boo Hale. Like, we're going to have a celebration. It's going to be a time. Kimberly robbed me of that. She was like, oh, my mother cried at the end. Where's the party? These people like to kick it. Boo Hale be jumping. And you mean to tell me she not going to meet up with Squash? Her and her sister's not finna go give they dragons hell. They not finna go kiki and have some more love potions. They not gonna go meet Ursula and kick it with the pirates. Where is the celebration? Okay. Alright, that's how I felt about that. Then I read Love and Sports Ball by Mika James, which was a romance that was supposed to give love and basketball, but it didn't. Like, the only thing it was like, I'll play you for it. That is the only line, the only reference, the only time that I felt it had a reference or a tie to that. But I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.25. It is a sapphic, work-paced sports romance. You have our female main character, Khadijah. Khadijah is I would say, athletic trainer or a physical therapist for the new basketball team. And so she comes in and she's very buttoned up and polished. She said, I'm going to come in and do my job. She actually doesn't care about sports. And that's probably the best, right? She has no idea that the woman that she meets named Shay in the club the night before her first day is a woman that's on her basketball team. Her sister takes her to this lesbian club. She's like, let your hair down. Celebrate this new job that you have. Let's go ahead and go to the bar. They get to the bar and Shay's like, oh, I like her. Let me buy her a drink. And so Khadijah finally decides that she's going to let her hair down. She is going to relax. She takes it to the next level when her sister leaves her at the club and she decides to go home with Shay. They have a night of passion and then Shay's like, yeah, okay, I like this woman. And Khadijah's like, ooh, that's the end of that. Like, I actually can't deal with this right now because I gotta go to work and I can't have a distraction. And you, Miss Ma'am, you're the distraction. Lo and behold, she gets there to her first day of work. She's like meeting her bosses. She's meeting everybody. She goes and meets the team and she's like, I know that ain't who I think it is. And it absolutely is. Now, Shay's like, okay, cool. I never thought I was going to see this woman again. And she's back in my life. We're going to have a thing. Khadijah's not going for it. She's like, actually, I'm going to act like it didn't happen. I don't want to do it again. And I need to have a professional boundary. Now, this is a problem for Shay, being that Shay is always being publicized in the media as like the playgirl, the one that can't settle down. She trots women through and she loves them and leaves them. And so it's hurtful to her when Khadijah puts her in that box. And I really appreciated the fact that these two women were trying to understand and they tried to work on having healthy communication. Even when they had miscommunication, they wind up working it through. I understood Khadijah's point because I am very much, I don't really want to be in a relationship with somebody that I work with, but the chemistry was undeniable. Khadijah, get it together, and especially because you're messing up the mojo of the team. Like, you really messed it up and now you gotta grovel. I've seen some mixed reviews on that, but I absolutely enjoyed it. Now, what I didn't enjoy for the month was Tay Monet's Let Me Be Your Motivation, which is here. Now, I thought I was going to love this. The premise sounded great. Our female main character, Jordan, she was actually getting married. She was marrying this boyfriend she's had for 2 or 3 years. She gets down the aisle. There's another woman that shows up and is like, hey, you're actually thinking that you're going to marry my husband, who I am with child with. Yeah, they start tussling. Everybody is going crazy at the altar. Jordan is like, I'm going on this honeymoon that you paid for. I'm going to soak myself on the beach in the sorrows and drink myself till I'm unconscious. And she meets Amir. Now, Amir is somebody she went to high school with. Now, he didn't know who she was. He was the star athlete. He is now a professional football player. And he's like, yeah, you're going to be my woman for the night. And from there, they decide to spend time together on this island and see if there's something that they connect on. The reason why I DNF'd this was really because of Amir. This book, and I think this is indicative of some things that before 2020, there was a standard for how male main characters were going to be. And that standard doesn't apply in 2024. Like, I am not a fan of a-holes. Like, I am not a fan of men that are just so cocky and so full of themselves that they don't appreciate the woman that's standing before them. They feel like you owe them something and that they are the prize. That don't work for me. The way that Amir was so full of himself and the way that he was playing on Jordan's time, let me know. I may be 70% in, but I'm getting off the train. Actually, this is not for me. I'm DNFing. And that's really what it was, because it was one night stand, and I understood that it was going to be insta love. But Jordan, you just left one fool. Don't put up with another. Now, the final book that I read for the month was Skeletons of Society by Marie Maravilla. I found my series. I love morally gray or dark FMCs, and Ryan is that girl. This is the story of Ryan and Gunnar. I'm sure you all have heard about it, but I'm going to talk about it. This is a possessive mailman character who is a motorcyclist, and he happens to find himself in a situation where he has to work with Ryan. Now, Ryan, our FMC, she is a part of the cartel. She is actually kind of like the enforcer. She puts it down. She also moves guns, moves products. She is the manager of a strip club, so she don't take no mess. And they are forced to work with each other. And what I love is that although Gunnar is possessive, he's like, actually, I'm gonna bow down to my queen. She rules the roost. And I understand that she don't need me to fight her battles, but I'm gonna be her henchman. And I love that he understands, hey, I may be alpha, but I'm gonna let you lead, and I'll follow wherever you wanna go. We wanna go to the desert and have a shootout? Baby, I'm there. Guns blazing. You want to torture a man in front of me? Baby, I'm gonna make sure he's strapped in tight so you can do your thing. Like, these two are chaos. There was a part where I got to the end and I said, now, Marie, I did not see this coming. Like, I'm usually with it. Like, I can see some things spotted down the line, and I didn't see this one coming. There was a plot twist in here that was twisting. But on the flip side of that, I think this is one I rated like a 4.25 or a 4.5. It was that flip side for me, because after I got that plot twist, I was like, ooh, you wrapped this up a little too clean. Like, this is unbelievable. I'm gonna let it rock because we have to, but you could have cleaned this up a little bit differently. Now, the fact that we got to see glimpses of two other people, a couple of other characters that we will see in the rest of the series, and it whet my appetite so well that, first and foremost, I already knew book 2, which I don't remember what that's called, but it has Scar's book, and it's a Why I Choose romance, and y'all know I am in my Why I Choose bag. I will be reading that very, very soon. But again, another FMC that is ballsy and badass. And so I enjoyed this one. It was dark, but it wasn't too dark. I loved that, like I said, that they played really well off of one another. If you want to do me a favor, tell me what your favorite book of the month was. Leave me a motorcycle, or do me a favor and leave me a rocket ship for the Kiss Countdown. So either a motorcycle for Skeletons Society or a rocket ship. Tell me what your favorite September read is, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.